Rame and Dr. Abid Chilari. Esteemed guests, excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all, Nin Hao, to this 10 years of BRI lesson learned and charting a way forward event. This discourse shifting event and discussion is a collaborative effort of Sustainable Development Policy Institute, SDPI, Pakistan China Institute, PCI, and Asian Institute of Eco-Civilization Research and Development. I welcome you all. The formal start of this event will be with welcome remarks of Dr. Abid Chilari, the Executive Director of SDPI. He will also be presenting the preliminary findings of SDPI's study on sustainable agriculture. Dr. Abid, sir.
Thank you very much, Khalid. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this another very important panel on 10 years of Belt and Road Initiative. Now, we have been talking of Belt and Road Initiative and especially CPEC in Pakistan as one of the game changers. We have been talking of the significance of BRI, not only for Pakistan, but for the region and abroad. And I think 10 years is a very reasonable time to look back and see its impacts, to look back and see both positive impacts, what were the areas for improvement, what is it that the countries part of CPEC, they had been doing, and what is it that Chinese government have been doing as a course correction. And for me, this BRI is a dynamic concept that is evolving. And it's not evolving, but it's also steering its course. For example, there used to be criticism on BRI and CPEC that it's not environment friendly. And I remember, and I quoted it earlier as well, that when Trump administration withdrew from Paris Agreement, the world had three choices. One choice was to follow America's footprint and withdraw from Paris commitments, keep on emitting the carbon emission. The second was to stay quiet, not do anything until America comes back. And third was to come forward and provide an alternative leadership. And EU and China both, and I must give credit to both of them, that they actually filled in the vacuum of what was created after America's withdrawal. And we heard of green CPEC, we heard of Green Belt and Road Initiative. President Xi in second Belt and Road Forum committed towards greening BRI, and there was this commitment that China would not be funding any coal-based power plant outside China. And not only this, but then there were Chinese-led initiative, and I'm happy to welcome Dr. Zhang here, who is the head of Belt and Road Initiative Green Coalition. So the civil societies in China and the other BRI countries, they actually formed coalitions, wanted to know from the member countries, the partner countries, what can be done to improve greening of Belt and Road Initiative, what can be done to green CPEC. Similarly, this Belt and Road Initiative has been criticized for promoting debt as well as lack of transparency. And those of you who were following the third Belt and Road Forum and who heard President Xi's 8 steps that he gave in the inaugural. So the point number 7 is all about transparency and about having a monitoring and evaluation framework assessment, which would be made available in public. So it categorically says of having some framework against which different initiatives they would be assessed and their output would be followed through and it would be made public. So my own assessment is that it's course correction, it's learning by doing. And I can also see that China doesn't want now to get accused of inefficiencies and governance deficiencies in recipient countries. So if my lender lends me to feed my children and I go to a casino and spend all of the money there, it is my fault, not my lender's fault. And I think that is the principle which is the course correction that I can see as a student of CPEC over last 10 years. One can see this sort of course correction coming. But these are just very initial assessment and initial ideas. We have a very learned speaker here in this panel who will, of course, be sharing us and educating us more on the 10 years journey of Belt and Road Initiative. At STPI, we are part of this Belt and Road Initiative Green Coalition, and we have been working on green development of CPEC. One of the project that we are working on is precision agriculture and climate smart agriculture. So we feel that it's the use of digital technology that can enable our agriculture to be climate resilient, and STPI is working on it. The first part of the project has been completed, and we have been now collecting the primary data from different public sector, agriculture research organization, private sectors, concerned ministries, trying to see the ecosystem for precision agriculture, use of drones, use of large language model, use of data applications, machine learning in agriculture, which is way forward for optimized use of fertilizer, optimized use of irrigation, and soil analysis, and all of this is being done. In fact, the first 2 days prior to this conference was a hackathon on food security and agriculture, where we had invited startups and entrepreneurs working in this area. The second important area where we were working is about renewable energy, just energy transition. And again, one finds there's the time is actually right to think of alternative fuels due to 2 reasons. One, of course, climate change and carbon emission. We have to reduce our reliance on fossil fuel and think of alternative. But second, and more urgent, is our lack of capacity to pay for imports of expensive fossil fuel. If we look at our import number, the maximum bill is import of fossil fuel, and that's where one is looking forward to explore potential of CPEC, how through CPEC we can transit from fossil fuel to green energy resources. And the third related point that I want to highlight, and then I'll go to the worthy panelists. The whole energy landscape is changing. So far when we were talking of alternative energy, we were just talking of solar and wind and hydel. So now the new rule of business will be copper, it would be nickel, and it would be other green metals which are being used in EVs, which are being used in semiconductors, which will be the fuel of future. And again, in order to be part of that supply chain, I think there is an opportunity for Pakistan within this broader framework of BRI and CPEC. We can actually think through how we can explore the potential of these green metals in Pakistan. And while the world, multipolar world is now facing the crisis, supply chain crisis, and one can see that in the Cold War, trade Cold War between China and America, there's a lot of restrictions on companies manufacturing or supplying to China in this green technologies. I think Pakistan has got the potential to be part of this supply chain and to explore future. And the final point that I want to leave for the honorable presenters here is our partnership in agriculture. Agriculture and food security, to me, it's a low-hanging area, low-hanging fruit. The crop age is a 6 months duration, and I often pose this question to many of our agriculture policy makers. China imports $100 billion worth of soybean per year. Now, if Pakistan can get 10% of that export share, it would be an additional $10 billion in our export, which is 25% increase in our export number. But in order to do it, China will not come and cultivate soybean in Pakistan. It is something that we have to do ourselves. So while we are looking at 10 years of BRI, we are talking of not only what worked, what didn't work, but we also want to talk about what will work in future. And to me, the future is this green metal, the future is green energy, the future is agriculture and food security, the future is enhanced transparency and effective utilization of borrowed money, and future is preparing all these projects involving communities at grassroots level so that they also feel getting equally benefited. And I'm not talking of Pakistan only, I'm talking of Belt and Road Initiative at a broader level. And finally, my colleague reminded me that we'll be forming a committee for this precision agriculture, a committee of experts. We have already identified 5 experts from Pakistan, and we are in the process of identifying 5 experts in China so that this collaboration on agriculture and food security, it can be enhanced further. So with this slightly longish introduction, but I wanted to set the context and set the scene. What is it we are expecting to get educated on from the worthy panel here? These are some of the areas, and I would like to know more about the potential of these areas, and also about this course correction strategy and this evolving BRI concept. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being here today.
Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Abid rightly mentioned the significance of BRI, China's role as an alternative environmental leadership after the USA's withdrawal from Paris Agreement. We definitely need to course correct ourselves in terms of fiscal discipline, in terms of trade, in terms of agriculture, environment, renewable energy, mining. China can provide us with support, with capacity building. One way to harness that potential and harness that support is to build ties not only in Pakistan, but in China as well. One of the effective way is to generate partnerships. For this, I would like to invite Mr. Mustafa Haider Sayed Sahab, He is Executive Director of Pakistan-China Institute. He would be providing his introduction of PCI initiative and his introductory remarks. Over to you, Mustafa. Sir, please, you can come in.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Shabu Hao. Good afternoon and welcome to the Greening BRI session hosted by the SDPI, PCI, and the Chinese Embassy this afternoon. Firstly, I would like to welcome our special friends from Beijing who've come a long way. Dr. Zhang, who's the Executive Director of the Belt and Road International Green Development Coalition, and Mr. Pang, who have visited Pakistan for the first time. And I think that this is, Dr. Abid, a very important visit because it shows Pakistan's role in the greening of the Belt and Road Initiative and the relevance that Pakistan has in this next 10 years of the construction of the Belt and Road Initiative. And before I give my opening remarks, I want to say that, of course, Senator Musharraf Hussain was there in the opening ceremony as well, but three of us, Mr. Shakil, Mr. Abid, and I were there in the greening panel. And it was very eye-opening for us to witness the new signals from Beijing for the world. And one of the key and interesting findings from my side was the international consensus that the Third Belt and Road Forum emanated. We saw that from Jokowi of Indonesia to Ethiopia, from Sri Lanka to Russia, all corners of the world were engaging on the Belt and Road Initiative, and these countries' leaders had their keynotes in the opening ceremony of the Belt and Road Initiative. It shows that all the continents of the world have now owned and displayed ownership of the Belt and Road Forum. Secondly, I think that when we talk about the Belt and Road Forum and the Belt and Road Initiative, it's imperative to underscore what we have already achieved. And in the first 10 years, despite the propaganda that Dr. Abid also referred to, that China has been on the receiving end of, the projects on the ground have been only enhanced. Despite the change in governments in so many countries, whether it is Pakistan or whether it's the industrial zone in outside of Kampala in Kapiki in Uganda, or whether it's the industrial zone in Ethiopia, the two industrial zones, or whether it's the SEZ, which has been constructed in Sihanoukville, or the Jakarta to Bandung high speed, or the Mombasa high speed rail, which has been made in Kenya, or the numerous Belt and Road projects which have been initiated in Kazakhstan. We see that the action, the projects from 2014 or 2013, when the Belt and Road Forum was initiated, to 2023 have been successful and have been a significant footprint. The next 10 years are going to be, of course, green focused, renewable energy focused, more sustainable. But a key aspect that was announced and that we, I think, really need to understand in Pakistan is, and which Dr. Zhang and I were briefly discussing yesterday, is the $100 billion that have been announced by President Xi Jinping that will be given to the Silk Road Fund, the China Development Fund, China Development Bank, and the Exim Bank for green projects, for funding green opportunities. And those banks that will give support to these projects will be done via the Belt and Road Green Development Coalition, of which Mr. Zhang is the executive director. And we have, ladies and gentlemen, been talking about the Just Energy Partnership for a very long time. But the third Belt and Road Forum saw the establishment of the Green Investment and Finance Partnership, which will finance new green pathways and new green projects. It is not going to focus on retirement of fossil fuel projects, but rather supporting the establishment of new green and sustainable projects, of which the Belt and Road Green Development Coalition will be playing a pivotal role. And that, I believe, ladies and gentlemen, is the opportunity for Pakistan to actually find those green projects which can be financed, because those $100 billion have to be spent somewhere. So it's an opportunity, I believe, for the next 10 years of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, that this GIFP, the Green Investment and Finance Partnership, offers. And this is huge. And I haven't, frankly, and I think we need to do more on this, I haven't seen any op-ed, news article, or news in Pakistan on this huge development. But we have, of course, been familiar with the Just Energy Partnership. Also, I want to share that 2.5 years ago, Pakistan-China Institute, along with Christoph Nedofil from the Fudan University and SDPI, took a very new, out-of-the-box, pioneering initiative of greening CPEC. Of course, it's a fad. We are talking about greening Belt and Road and greening CPEC now every day. But 2.5 years ago, we took this initiative because we saw that it is not sustainable for Pakistan's development and China's development and their shared development to remain in the status quo, and we have to adapt to the times. This involves Mr. Zuberi, senior advisor of the China Three Gorges, is here. China Three Gorges Corporation is a partner with us in this new initiative. And the Ministry of Energy of Pakistan and BRI-GC has also been involved in this in different dialogues. And other stakeholders in China have also been engaged to see what are the specific steps that we can take to decarbonize the new investments which will come post-2023 into Pakistan. And how can we make sure that there is a overall criteria that Chinese enterprises agree to, that they fulfill that criteria of low carbon investments, and that low carbon investment is incentivized. So when those investments are low carbon and they meet those standards, they are incentivized, appreciated, and encouraged, as opposed to those that are not low carbon. And that pioneering initiative is still continuing, and we are in the second phase of that now, and we will also keep you apprised about that. Finally, I want to paraphrase a few sentences from President Xi Jinping's opening speech on the Belt and Road Forum that would put into context the importance of this subject to all of you. And I quote, "Promoting green development, China will continue to deepen cooperation in areas such as green infrastructure, green energy, and green transportation, and step up support for the BRI, International Green Development Coalition. China will continue to hold the BRI Green Innovation Conference and establish dialogue and exchange mechanisms for the solar industry and a network of experts on green and low carbon development. China will implement the green investment principles for the Belt and Road and provide 100,000 training opportunities for partner countries by 2030. So this is the policy statement from President Xi Jinping from the Belt and Road Forum. And finally, I want to just make a comment on when we talk about this transition in Pakistan, and we immediately jump on to renewable energy projects, because there's more visibility when a new renewable energy project is announced. But we don't follow through the process. I don't see enough discourse on smart grids and updated grids, which, as some of us know, is a prerequisite for absorbing energy from renewable energy projects. So I think that Pakistan needs to have the approach. We have to make those steps, those incremental steps, that journey that we need to undertake, which I would think begin in investing and creating BOT and public-private partnership models for upgrading our grids and creating attractive tariffs for, firstly, investors to invest in those outdated grids, which are from the British era, because even today we have power outages, not because we don't have enough electricity, but because there's leakages from the grid. We don't have smart meters, we don't have smart grids. So when we talk about this green energy transition, I think the first step that needs to be done is wealth creation, not borrowing money to finance these new grids or putting them in PSDP from our dwindling budgets of the government, but from public-private partnerships like Lahore to Matiari is a great example that was taken by State Grid, and it's been done and by investment on BOT basis, and it has been successfully executed. We need to create wealth by build, operate, and transfer and public-private partnerships where investors upgrade these grids, they become modern, they're at par with our power plants, and then we have renewable energy investments, not the other way around. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mustafa Haider Syed, the Executive Director of Pakistan-China Institute. Sir, you rightly highlighted that the nature of partnerships, the nature of these relationships have been changed. Now we need to focus on building partnerships in a more strategic and more balanced kind of way, which are more focused on depth, economic depth. You rightly mentioned the initiative taken by China, that is green investment and finance partnerships, just to promote the just energy transition. This is the era, ladies and gentlemen, which need green diplomacy, which need balance between geostrategy, between geoeconomics, to discuss this aspect of diplomacy, climate diplomacy, green diplomacy, and how to create this balance. I would now invite Senator Mushahid Hussain Sayyid Saab. He is the expert on diplomatic relationships. He is also the chairman of Senate's Committee on Defense. Welcome, Senator Saab. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum, and ni hao to our Chinese guests who have come all the way from Beijing, especially Dr. Jiang from the Green Coalition, and also Mr. Pang and other guests, and of course, Dr. Abid Suleri, who is making a tremendous contribution in promoting, I would say, regional connectivity in this battle of narratives as head of the SDPI. And even I was here last night also, and I'm supposed to come here again this afternoon also. So this shows that how the Sustainable Development Policy Institute of Pakistan is playing such an important role in connecting ideas, issues, and initiatives, not just within Pakistan, but Pakistan and the region, and Pakistan and the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure to be in Beijing last month at the third Belt and Road Forum. And for me, it was a good opportunity because this was the first forum after the COVID. And I had also the opportunity of attending the first two fora. The first one was held in 2017 and the second one on 2019. And I think the speech has been mentioned by Dr. Suleri, who was also there, and also Mustafa. The key element which President Xi Jinping mentioned in his address, his keynote address on the first day, which is the 18th of October. And he said, and I think this is an important to understand, what is BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative? The BRI is a new platform, a new path to development, and a new framework for international economic cooperation, building together, planning together, and benefiting together for an open, inclusive, and interconnected world. And that is exactly what the BRI has been able to do in its first 10 years, because the Belt and Road Initiative is without doubt the most important diplomatic and developmental initiative of the 21st century. And that is why we saw a representation of over 150 countries in Beijing, over 30 international organizations. And in those 10 years, China has invested $1 trillion in over 3,000 projects. And the theme actually of the second BRI forum was very clear. It was towards green development. So green development is a part and parcel of the Belt and Road Initiative. And during his speech also, and I think this is important to understand, Mustafa mentioned about the money being allocated to the Silk Road Fund, but he also mentioned, President Xi Jinping, there will be 100,000, 1 lakh, training opportunities for partner countries in green development in the next few years. And I think that is extremely important, that you have to develop a cadre of expertise on green development among the members. And I'm very happy that Huma Fakhr Sahaba is also here, and Zubairi Sahab, and they have also been making a major contribution in this field, that we in Pakistan understand that new opportunities are opening up. And Dr. Suleri, I totally agree with you also in the field of agriculture and food security. Because China is one country where you can see the greening of the deserts. The deserts are being transformed into blossoming of agriculture. And that is something that Pakistan can learn from and benefit from. And you mentioned the exports also. But there is also a caveat, because at the same time, while there is this development, we see two contrasting narratives emerging. One is, of course, the narrative from China through the Belt and Road Initiative, which talks of connectivity, which talks of cooperation, which talks of inclusivity, which talks of respect for diversity, respect for equality. But at the same time, there is a notion of a new Cold War. And that, unfortunately, certain hawkish quarters in the West are also peddling when they talk of an Asian NATO, when they talk of the militarization of international relations, when they talk of Quad, which is includes India also, and they talk of AUKUS, new organizations. So, but at the same time, it's very interesting, and I think that's I think it's a kind of double standards and hypocrisy also, that people who criticize BRI also want to have copycat projects of BRI at the same time. And Dr. Suleri Saab mentioned about the debt trap. And I would refer Dr. Saab and ladies and gentlemen to this article, which was published in the Atlantic, which is published from Washington, D.C., 6th of February, 2021. The article is titled, "The Myth of the Chinese Debt Trap." This is an American publication, The Atlantic, published from Washington, D.C., and the authors are two American professors, Deborah Brottingham and Reg Mythfire. And Professor Reg came to see me actually 2 months ago. She's from Harvard University, by the way. And they wrote that this is a total myth. And they gave the example, you know what, Dr. Saab? Haman Tota. That what was stated in the Western media and the critique was factually inaccurate. And this is the other lady, Deborah, is from Yale University, and Meg Rithmeyer, actually, is from Harvard University. So I think that this has to be there. And coming to the copycat projects, President Biden announced the Build Back Better World, B3W, in Edinburgh in March 2021. 1 year later, the name of B3W was changed to PGII, Program for Global Infrastructure and Investment. And not to be left behind, the European Union started what is called Global Gateway. And that was also a copycat project. And the latest copycat project of BRI was launched actually 2 months ago in September in New Delhi. It's called IMEC, India, Middle East, European Union, Israel Economic Corridor. But thankfully, that lies buried now in the debris of Gaza, because we see that there is a new divide in the world. The global south, in which China is the leading exponent and the leading voice, whether it's the issue of the Belt and Road Initiative, whether it's the issue of Ukraine, whether it's the issue of Gaza, taking different positions, and the Western countries, assisted by some Asian countries, especially India and Japan, taking a different position, which is contrary to the interests of it. And I can see on the Gaza genocide, the first delegation that came from OIC, the Islamic countries, the foreign ministers went to Beijing, where they got the support of China, the Chinese government, on the issue of Gaza genocide, where crimes against humanity have been committed by Israel against the people of Palestine. And similarly on Ukraine, most of the countries of the global south have abstained, and they don't want to be part of any new Cold War, because they feel that this is not our war, this is something in Europe that is happening. And similarly on the Belt and Road Initiative. But I'm very happy that on 15th of November, at the San Francisco summit of President Biden and President Xi Jinping, there was an understanding between China and the United States on climate change, on cooperation climate change, and not just climate change. It's also an important area they've agreed to is artificial intelligence. And they have agreed to have this cooperation, because China has already given a very major initiative at the Belt and Road Forum on artificial intelligence in the 8-point plan of Xi Jinping, where he talks of a global AI governance framework based on the United Nations legitimacy to bring people together so that AI is not weaponized and sanctions are not weaponized, and even human rights and democracy issues are not weaponized, because they are trying to use it as a weapon. So given this context, I think that the Belt and Road Initiative, of which the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and we are very fortunate that there is one country that's willing to support us despite our incompetence or inconsistencies in certain areas. We have this, have not fully been able to utilize some of the things because of a bureaucratic red tape, but I hope that with the recent visits of leaders of Pakistan, civil and military, to China, CPEC has been given a new impetus, and new initiatives have been launched, and both Pakistan and China together will take this forward. In the context of the so-called new Cold War, we are very clear. Pakistan will stay away from any kind of activity that seeks a new Cold War or that seeks containment of China, because we reject this notion. China is a friend of Global South. China is a friend of Asia, and cooperation with China is, in fact, the pivot of Pakistan's foreign policy, and it will remain so. And we have told this to the United States, we have told this to the Western countries, that this is a red line for Pakistan's foreign policy, because this is something which is in our interests. And this is not something new, because we have not discovered China recently. We have had the strategic bond and strategic partnership with China for the last 60 years, since March 1963, when we signed the boundary agreement. And that was the last remaining issue of friction between Pakistan and China, which was resolved amicably. So given this context, we would like to take BRI forward. I think the Belt and Road Forum in Beijing was a huge success, because it gave a roadmap for the future. And I hope and expect that many people, more sane people in the West, and we have seen a very powerful segment of public opinion in the West, which has come out in the streets to oppose the Gaza genocide, whether it's London, Paris, Washington, New York, and Rome, and Berlin and Madrid, that voice for peace, that voice for cooperation will be surmounting the hawkish views of the military establishments and the security establishments of the Western countries, whose views, in my view, are outdated, because in the 21st century, which is the Asian century, there is no room for such notions. And I would like to tell our Chinese friends that when we talk of this shift in the historic balance of economic and political power from the West to the East, and the peaceful rise of China, which we welcome, 90 years ago, the great poet philosopher of the East, Dr. Allama Iqbal, had predicted this. Dekh mashriq se ubarte hue suraj ko dekh. See the sun rising in the east, and gara khab chini sambhalne lage, Himalaya ke chashme ubhalne lage, gaya daur sarmayadari gaya, tamasha dikha ke madari gaya. See the springs of hope rising in the Himalayas with the great Chinese nation rising from slumber. And it's a new world that is opening up. And this was predicted by Dr. Allama Iqbal 90 years ago, which has come true. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure, and I wish the conference all success.
Thank you so much, Senator Saab. Sir, listening to your kind remarks has educated us. Your kind take on building together, planning together, and benefiting together, that was very insightful. Yes, we need green development. We need global AI regulation framework. We need to modernize all the sectors of the economy, and that can be based on partnerships and meaningful partnerships. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard a greatest friend of China from Pakistan, and now a friend of Pakistan from China. I would invite Dr. Zhang Jiaoyu, Executive Director of BRI Green Development Institute. Over to you, Dr. Zhang. Welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for inviting me, representing BRIGC, the BRI International Green Development Coalition that has been mentioned several times already by my colleagues, my friends, and also the esteemed senator from the Congress, and I feel really appreciated. Well, it's my first trip to this great country, and I have only been here less than 48 hours, but I already been overwhelmed by the hospitality and the warmth of our dear guests, to the extent that I offered my speech to Mustafa during his warm reception, that he stole my line, that I do not know what to talk about, because I was really awed by their familiarities and also their deep knowledge on China, on the BRI issues, and on what President Xi said during the most recent BRI summit. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think let's be practical and be honest with ourselves. The whole world is facing a crisis, right? We're facing multiple crises, geopolitical crisis, we're facing economic crisis. But in my mind, because of my profession and because of the field that I love the most, that I think we're facing a crisis of sustainability. If you look at the UN report said, of those 17 targets that we're supposed to achieve by 2030, we're only 20% through. And UNEP, the United Nations Environmental Program, just published it's called the annual gap report, which they say that if we combine all our efforts, all our commitments under the Paris Agreement, we're only going to be 9% lower than what we are projected emission by 2030, and we're on our way to probably going to reach by 2.9 degrees. And the UNEP report outlined that if we really want to achieve the 2-degree target, that we're supposed to cut about 28% of our emission, of the projected emission by 2030. And if we want to achieve what we agreed in Paris in 2015, that our aspired target of 1.5 degree, we need to cut about 42% of our emission by 2030. And I think we're really doing a poor job. I've been to almost all of the COPs except for the COP during the COVID because of the travel restrictions. But I think we're, as a human being, as a society, that we really have not been doing a really good job in terms of what we have committed ourselves to. Well, in the international arena, these days, lots of people talk about the Thucydides trap. I think you have heard and are familiar with, which talk about the competition between the rising powers, mostly refer to what's happening between China and the US. But people are not so familiar is actually another trap, which is called the Kinderberg trap, which outlines that if a rising power could not offer the corresponding responsibility it has to the global international community, then chaos will happen. I think that's exactly what we are seeing, what's happening in the world, particularly for the past 30 years. So what's China's take and what's China's contribution to this and what's China's opinion on this? I think China exactly trying to do its share through the BRI initiative that China launched 10 years ago, and also what China is planning to do for the next 10 years. As President Xi has said that, the last 10 years of the BRI development is the development of the prosperity, but we want to make the next 10 years to be the golden 10 years. And we want to make the next 10 years to be a high quality 10 years for the BRI development. And ladies and gentlemen, China, I think, is committed to the global sustainable development, and China really wants to offer what it can in a methodical and also in a practical approach. Just look at what happened in the past 10 years in terms of the green of the area of the focus, but I'm concerned here. See, when China launched the initiative back to 2013, green was not on top of the agenda. That's to be honest and face it. And President Xi didn't announce the green BRI officially until 2017 during the first BRI summit. I think one of the reasons for that because China believes that it is important for us to build the skeletons of the BRI development, to build the corridors, to build the infrastructures, by only which that developing countries like Pakistan can grow, based on those infrastructure developments. And then as our way to pursue sustainability and economic prosperity. So China has been taking a practical approach for the green, starting with greening the infrastructure projects that China is helping other countries and China is participating with the other countries through lowering the environmental footprint of those projects. So China has done two things. One is China has reformed the process in which green is managed through those infrastructure projects. Green used to be managed in an ad hoc fashion. So basically you build a project and you come back and register your environmental footprint with the ministry. And they have changed it that now green is being integrated from the planning phase of the project to the construction, to the operation, and even to the post-operation of those projects. The other thing China has done is China has strengthened the environmental requirement for the overseas investment projects that back to 2017, the requirement is only that you need to comply with local environmental standards and regulations. And now that is not only need to be in full compliance with the sovereign requirements, but also you need to comply with China standards. And in the absence of Chinese standards, you need to comply of the best practice of the international community. So that's the first thing China is doing. That's exactly what President Xi said during his speech, that China is still committed for green infrastructure, committed to green energy system, and committed to green transportation systems. The second thing China has done, also through the massive and also the mushroom development of the renewable capacity domestically, China right now, the domestic installed capacity of the green power has surpassed that of the fossil fuel. The China is, through its massive high quality manufacturing capability, has really lowered the cost of the renewables. In 10 years, the cost of the solar panel has been lower by 87%. So right now it's only 13% of what it used to cost. My friend, that's the real physical solution. Without the cheap, reliable products, I think that the target that we're talking about of the 2-degree or the 1.5-degree is going to be the target in the vacuum that's not going to be achievable. So if you look at the numbers starting from 2015 and 2018 respectively, China has really beefed up its investment in the renewables in the international countries, particularly through the BRI. And actually, that was really highlighted by President Xi's speech in 2021 that China will stop building coal-fired power plants overseas, and China is committed in helping developing countries develop low carbon and green energy system. And guess what? China has really fulfilled its pledge that not a single coal-fired power plant was built after the 2021, the President Xi's announcement. But China didn't stop there. China wants to do more. And again, China really wants to offer its share for the international community to help achieve the SDG goals so as we can avoid this Kindleberg trap that history has told us that it's really important for you to match up your international responsibility. And that comes to the finance part. My friends, the UNSG Secretary General put a price tag of $2 trillion for the developing countries, China excluded, if we're really serious to achieve the 2030 targets of the 28% or the 42% of the reduction. And finance is really important because the developed countries have not fulfilled their commitment back to 2009 that they're going to offer $100 billion every year, annually, to the developing countries. As far as the accounting has shown, the best numbers we got is $36.2 billion that they have offered to the developing countries. They have not yet done their share. But China wants to step up and to do its own through partnerships that was mentioned by Mustafa, which I said he stole my line, in terms of this new partnership, the GIFI, the Green Investment and Finance Partnership that was backed up by the new $100 billion that was committed by President Xi in his speech. So you can see through reducing the environmental and carbon footprint of the China's overseas investment, through offering the cheap and reliable products so as to help you achieve the target, and then go to the finance part, because China has a strong, very established experience in financing its own domestic development. I really want to share that with the international community through two things. One is blended finance, one is carbon finance. China right now has the largest carbon market in the world, and China is reforming the domestic, what we call the CCER, China Certified Emission Reduction, which equivalent to the carbon offset, so that those renewable projects can get additional line of income through selling of the carbon credits, either in your own country, maybe to China, and certainly to international community, something called the GFANS. You're familiar with the field, the Glasgow Carbon Neutrality Alliance that many of the Fortune 500 companies have committed themselves to. So ladies and gentlemen, I think the Sustainable Development Target is something really serious. And as a human being, as a global community, I think we're facing this common crisis that we really need to be serious with. But green, I think if you've done it right, it can be the new impetus for our development rather than to be the one that would drag us down. And that's exactly what President Xi said in his speech. What he said there, which I quote, that China has a commitment to help developing countries to achieve their green dreams. And if it does right, that we can transform the valley of the development into the highness of the prosperity. And China is there to help. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we talk a lot about the CPEC, and I think CPEC has really stayed as the best scenario, the top-notch scenario that China is cooperating with other countries in the economic development. In our senator's word, that we plan together, we build together, and we benefit together. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we have the opportunity to work under the theme of the green to make the China-Pakistan cooperation no longer just on the economic side, but also on the green side, so we can make it as a green beacon on the mountain, so that we can all achieve all this together. So not only we can benefit our own countries mutually, but also I think we can set up a really good example to show to the world that if you're really serious about the target, if you're really serious about your effort, and you're really serious about your friendship, your partnership, we can have that achieved. So let's work all together and to achieve our green dreams together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zhang. You rightly mentioned that there is a need to green the infrastructure. We need to green all the sectors that are linked with development. We need to have this holistic approach where green is powering the green economy and we are building better. Thank you so much. Uh, uh, China is making itself green. China's policies are getting green. Infrastructure is getting green. What Pakistan need to do is Pakistan needs to green itself in terms of policy making, in terms of infrastructure development, and in terms of public investments. One right initiative in this right direction is the establishment of Sustainable Financial Bureau and climate private investment management assessment initiatives by government of Pakistan. Now I would like to invite Dr. Shazia Ghani. She is team lead special projects, CPEC, Prime Minister's Office, Government of Pakistan, and she is an authority on macroeconomics and economics. Thank you so much, Dr. Shazia. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. SDPI, thank you so much for inviting me for this important talk. And personally, it's such a great honor for me to share stage with Dr. Salari, with Sir Mushahid Hussain Sayyed and Mr. Zhang, the Executive Director of BRI. Before, formally starting my talk, the biggest policy lesson or I have learned during last 10 years is that, there is a saying, when you want to cut a tree, and you have just 5 hours, so spend 4 hours on sharpening the blade. That's the biggest lesson that I have personally learned. And let me, ladies and gentlemen, steer you through. I would not share the information that I have already shared by my seniors and Mustafa. On the policy lessons, the biggest, challenge or the lesson that we need to learn is the, doing your homework. We just get into things. We do not have proper policy frameworks. Let me give you an example. In 2011, we licensed Chinese banks to start business in Pakistan. In 2013, we become part of Belt and Road Initiative. We signed formal implementation of CPEC. On 8 November 2014, we signed framework on energy. And guess what? It was in December 15 that I have my first energy document under which I could sign my IAs and PPAs. So, this is the kind of preparedness, and this is just one example. And then blaming for my all inconsistencies and incapacities and, my mood swings to the donor or to the lender, that's not a, good sign. There are some issues, as they say, the devil is in detail. So usually the host countries, they also lack the inability to address some of critical issues that emerged when you do detailed feasibility studies. So that's also important, that either it's energy sector, either it's infrastructure sector, or whatever sector we are pursuing, we have to do our homework. Our policy frameworks should be in place, and there is some sort of constitutional guarantee that we would not retrospectively change those policy commitments or agreements that we have, made with the other. Another policy lesson that I have learned over the years is, our own lack of capacity to, construct such big initiatives. We just unfortunately took it for granted, or we thought that it was our right to investment package from a friendly country. And well, if we are not very much prepared, it's okay. We will be learning by doing. That cost us massive. When projects are, taken up without preparation, they face delays. When they face delays, then there are cost overruns. This is another important policy lesson. Another policy lesson is choice of projects. I think it's good to be passionate about, but while we are choosing a project to be undertaken, we should have really good technical homework about that. That should not be led by my political cycle, by my wishes, by my own understanding of certain kind of projects. Well, we do not have much control on geopolitical issues and geostrategic things, but we must be able to strengthen and we must be able to give confidence to our partner countries, in this case in China, that yes, we have some sort of control and understanding my own domestic challenges and issues. And there we should put an agreed front. We should not look like that we are not prepared or we are not sharing the thoughts. Another thing, in case of BRI, generally I learned that there were some gaps in communication right from the beginning. And especially in our part of the world, we try to fight out the issues with passion, which is not a bad thing. But you are responding to a narrative where the gentlemen are having boutique lawyers, boutique actuarists, boutique financial experts, and then just using the passion as a tool to respond that kind of really technical thing is not a good strategy. You have to answer in the same coin. And for that we have to work hard. It's easy to fight with passion, but when we respond with passion, we are unfortunately unable to get the desired results. Another thing that I have learned over the years, so China is not hurry about the ultimate fate of project. I don't know why everybody else is in hurry. I really don't understand. They are not in hurry. They understand that, okay, there will be problems, there will be issues. For them, it's a marathon. We want to play it like T20. So this is important thing. When you understand that how the other side is planning to implement it, what's their vision, then you sit and calm and you think through about your own strategies. This is another policy lesson that I have learned. And well, now let me share Excellency Xi Jinping's words. And today I realized that I must have a sitting with Sir Mushahid Saab and Mustafa, to have view from horse's mouth about what happened at Third Belt and Road Forum. But let me use President Xi Jinping's words that the future BRI will be open, green, and clean, having smart projects. So, this is also for us as government, as think tanks, that while we are planning for the next phase of the project, when we are advising the government, when we are doing our research, we should focus on these aspects. We should not talk about now very big project, very expensive project, but we should be focusing on smart projects which are big in terms of impact. My fellow colleagues have talked a lot about, various initiatives that China is taking about greening of the BRI. So ladies and gentlemen, within 10 years, China's financed almost $52 billion coal power plants under the BRI, coal, LNG, fossil fuel power plants. But after this Third Belt and Forum, we have learned that $100 billion has been earmarked for the green projects. This is such a massive shift. And that massive shift is not just propagated or just not on paper. It has, tangible allocation of resources. This is important. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let me discuss one more important thing. We, including my own good self, we are so much, overwhelmed. Whenever there is finance, we mean dollars. So when we are pursuing the green financing, it's really important that I should diversify my financing mechanisms also. We should not focus that, okay, we will be getting projects from those $100 billion, like 10% of it in terms of US dollars. All China's policy banks, they have instruments to finance these projects in RMB. I have, before joining the government, I was at State Bank of Pakistan. So back in 2013, Chinese currency was, given the status as one of the reserves currency where you can maintain your foreign currency accounts also. And then after a year or so, I think State Bank of Pakistan issued prudential regulations also. Unfortunately, businesses are not using these available instruments much, but I think as a public policy practitioner, as a student of economics, for our onwards collaboration, we should give full play to the usage of renminbi, the Chinese yuan currency.
And this will diversify some of my pressure on my current account also. I mean, there will be challenge. We ultimately have to pay, but putting some eggs in other basket always a good idea. So here, I would also like to share. Just recently, State Bank of Pakistan has issued its vision document, and probably first ever time in the history of central bank, climate change is written as one of the strategic area. State Bank of Pakistan has also issued green guidelines. I know SECP has also issued some green guidelines, but unfortunately, the biggest problem with me, we are very good, in saying that, okay, this fund, it's like $100 billion. What about like, accessing 10% of it? But how to access, man, that 10%? You have to get really good understanding how you can plan a project, how you can apply for funding, what processes you have to do. So I think, as Sarmshai Saab said, there are 100,000 training opportunities under the Green Belt and Road Initiative. I think we should be more passionate about this thing, that let's get training. Let's try to learn how the Chinese catch the fish instead of asking them, give us 5% of your $100 billion or give us like 10% from your $100 billion. It's really important that we learn how to conceive such projects, how to apply to get funding for such projects. And without putting our skin into game, we will always be blaming others for our problems. And another important thing that I would like to share, whenever we talk about green finance, Green Belt and Road Initiative, like all other my colleagues, I'm also so much obsessed by, the energy sector. Immediately I jump to renewable. There is massive requirement to do something in green transportation sector, in green green innovation thing, in green urbanization thing, within broader framework of BRI and in CPEC. Unfortunately, I'm not aware if we are pursuing anything related to green transportation thing. So I think as a policymaker, as a public policy practitioner, and as a experts sitting in the think tanks, there should be some kind of, research and policy recommendations for the government that, okay, energy is important, but let's focus on other areas also. Another important thing that I would like to highlight, I have, just recently, within last 2 months, since Fed made its last monetary policy announcement, Western European companies and some of the national banks of Eastern European, they have raised huge monies in the dim sum and panda bonds. And when we talk about issuance of bonds, we just know sukuk bonds to be issued in Europe. This is very unfortunate. And I think I can see some colleagues from the banking sector sitting also in the audiences. I think we should start talking about tapping some of China's capital market. And we should, when we say green bond, it does not necessarily mean that you have to issue green bond in the Europe. Let's try to focus on RMB-based dim sum bonds and panda bonds. There is massive liquidity in the Chinese financial markets. It's just we do not want to work hard because we don't understand their prudential regulations. We have to, go through the big regulatory things. We have to understand how Hong Kong work. It's only after that, we can possibly forgo that. But this is really important thing. So I think I have covered almost all important things that I wanted to say, but I would re-emphasize that for future collaboration under Belt and Road and under CPEC, and to tap that new fund which is established, and even to enhance financial cooperation in the ongoing framework, we should really focus on, changing the currency of cooperation. Let's get out of this dollar thing for a while. Let's try to get some financing in terms of RMB for like first 5 projects and see how they work. And if it doesn't work, we can always go back to dollar. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shazia. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what the blend of passion and technical expertise looks like. Thank you so much, Dr. Shazia, for mentioning the need to change the currency of transaction and to put our investments in Chinese capital market so that we can fund this green financing initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, Chinese embassy have been phenomenal in terms of providing a platform for partnerships, building partnerships, friendships, and capacity building. Now I would like to invite Excellency Mr. Wang Sita. He is energy project expert on CPEC, Embassy of China. Mr. Wang, sir, please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। शुक्रिया और आज मैं बहुत खुशी है तो यहाँ एक तकरीर करें। It is a great honor for me to have a discuss with Dr. Mushahid, Mr. Mustafa, or Dr. Raiza, yes, or Dr. Zhang or Dr. Ramey. And entrusted by the leaders of the Chinese embassy, today I would like to share the stories of China's efforts for green development during the construction of CPEC. Now this year is 10 years of BRI. And in the past 10 years, the BRI has been capitalized as the Green Belt and Road, as the Chinese government is committed to sustainability, the environmental production, and international environmental standards. At the third BRI Forum for International Cooperation, President Xi Jinping announced 8 major steps China will take to support high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, setting a new direction for BRI cooperation, generating new momentum for world economic growth, and opening new vistas for global common development. And among these 8 steps, just the distinguished guest also mentioned just now that President Xi Jinping highlighted that China will continue to promote green development, and the country will further deepen the cooperation in areas such as green infrastructure, green energy, and green transportation. And this is another solemn oath for China to promote energy conservation and green development. And I think just now we have talked a lot about the BRI. And now let our focus back to CPEC, the landmark project of the BRI. Over the past 10 years, CPEC has brought Pakistan a total of $25.4 billion in direct investment, 236,000 jobs, 510 kilometers of highways, more than 8,000 megawatts of electricity, and 886 kilometers of core transmission lines. And it has generated a strong impetus to Pakistan's economic and social development. And a part of this data, we can see that through the construction of green infrastructure, green energy, and green transportation, the CPEC has made great contribution to Pakistan's social welfare and sustainable development. I would like to use 3 examples to show how China has fulfilled its promise to promote the construction of green corridor. First, the green infrastructure improves the living standards of the Pakistani people. And let's focus on Gwadar, a small city in the northwestern part of the Balochistan province, which now become a pearl of CPEC construction. Various infrastructure projects in Gwadar and CPEC has contributed to its social economic development in a sustainable way. Gwadar Fakir School and Vocational Training Center has operated smoothly, providing education opportunities for the local students. Pak China Friendship Hospital and the desalination plant are nearing completion, one to provide the medical assistance and the other to provide clean water. The Tropical Arid Economic Forest Research Center sows the seed of hope by studying the plants suitable for the environment of Gwadar, exploring a green sustainable development road with ecological, economic, and social benefit for the Gwadar region. And second, I think the green energy provides clean electricity for Pakistan. A total of 14 energy projects have been completed at the CPEC, including wind power, hydropower, photovoltaic, and other new energy projects. The China-built Carrot hydropower project is now playing a vital role in promoting sustainable and green development. With an annual generating capacity of 3.2 billion kilowatt hours of clean electricity, the Carrot hydropower project is expected to save about 1.4 billion tons of standard coal and reduce carbon dioxide emissions by 3.5 million tons each year. And in addition, about the China-built coal-fired power plants, it faced a lot of negative narratives, but actually they use the most advanced supercritical power generation technology, which creates nearly zero pollution. And they get lots of international environment awards and provide Pakistan with adequate, efficient, and clean electricity. And third, the green transportation, just the doctor just mentioned, actually, it also brings convenience to life for Pakistan people. And I think one great example is the Lahore Orange Line, which is the first metro line system of Pakistan. And up to 0.2 million passengers travel daily through the Orange Line to reach their destination. As of June 2023, the carrying capacity of the Orange Line has reached 100 million. And the project has not only reduced the traffic congestion and air pollution, but also improved the quality of life of the Lahore people and stimulated economic activity along the road. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chinese President Xi Jinping met with the Chinese President Xi Jinping met with the Prime Minister Kakar at the sideline of the BRI forum. The leaders of the two countries reached the important consensus on strengthening the China-Pakistan all-weather strategic cooperative partnership and high-quality CPEC cooperation. To implement the consensus of the high-quality CPEC cooperation, I think the joint construction of Green Corridor is a crucial part of creating an upgraded version of CPEC. And I believe we will insist in the principle of sustainable development and promote the construction of CPEC to take the road of green and low carbon development. And China is always willing to support Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, Chinese philosophy believes that all things that grow live in harmony and benefit from the nourishment of nature. Chinese President Xi Jinping also emphasized that green mountains are gold mountains. For the good man, but the good hand. I believe that with the joint effort of China and Pakistan, and we will rise above the global climate and environment challenges and build a clean, beautiful, and modelized future with harmony between man and nature. And मैं तो फिर एक बार शुक्रिया अदा करें and उम्मीद है कि आज का इवेंट कामयाब हासिल करें और शुक्रिया. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wang. It was wonderful to hear you. You rightly pointed out that we need to be with harmony with environment, and our economy should be coupled with the green practices, and we need to extend this drive to other sectors of the economy like transportation and other like household energy transition and etc. Before I go towards the conclusion of this session, I would invite Mr. Shakil Rame Saab. He is the CEO of Asian Institute of Eco-Civilization Research and Development. He would be presenting lesson learned in terms of 10 years of BRI. Please, Shakil Rame Saab, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. Okay. The task to speak at the end of a panel, it is not difficult to talk, but to fight back your sleep. That is most important. So, I will be talking about very quickly because I know I will be standing between the food and the food of thoughts. So I will try to finish as quickly as possible. So what we achieved during the last 10 years in the term of the BRI. We can talk about data, numbers, everything, but what I find out, what was the major achievements of BRI during the last 10 years, I came with a conclusion of the four. Number one. Okay, number one, so when we talk about, it is alternative. BRI created an alternative to Western institutions. Before BRI, we had to work with the Western institution, either we like it or not. We have to bear the brunt, you can say, either we can say that we have to fulfill the conditionalities being put on the countries because we did not have any alternative. But with the BRI, we have an alternative. Second, shielding from the exploitation. If you look around, look on the paper, institutions which were created after 1930 economic crisis and the World War II, like IMF, World Bank, UN system, they have deep structural imbalances. So those structural imbalances empower the Western countries to play their book, by their book, like what is happening in Gaza, but you cannot do anything because we don't have the veto power. Or you don't have the power to decide due to those institutions. And those institutions exploited developed countries, especially the resource-rich countries. If you want to read more about, last Friday I delivered a lecture in Renmin University, Beijing, on the structural imbalances of a global governance system and its impact on development. They have published that paper, my speech. You can read that. Third one, debt relief. There's a lot of propaganda about the debt trap of China. But nobody talk about how Chinese investment help the countries to lower their debt. And they help the countries, why they can, how they can lower that debt. Because when China came with the investment or even loans, they are all productive loans, not the non-productive loans as we get from most of the time from IMF, World Bank, and other institutions. When you have a productive loan, that means there will be economic activity. You will be earning the resources and you will be getting more financial resources to pay back that. And that is the point which IMF, World Bank, and Western institutions don't like because it's break their circle of exploitation. Then as they break the circle, they come up with the propaganda, debt trap. I have written this paper a few years back. So we analyzed many case studies from the Pakistan world. So my institution, Asian institution, has published this paper. If you want to learn more, you can read that. Apart from these investments, from 2013 to 2021, China provided $104 billion to rescue the different countries from their economic crisis. That means China is doing the rescue and providing the relief. It must be debt relief. So last important point is bringing back focus to the human security. What has been happening for many years in the world, at the name of economic security, we have militarized economies. And the focus of security on the human has been diminished. If you look around when we talk about the economic security, they will talk to you strategic position, invest there, invest like these things. But where is a human? So BRI helped to bring back the focus on the human. Because when Chinese talk about, they talk about security with the lens of human, not with the lens of military. And that is a point where in USA and the Western countries, military industrial complex work. Because they have militarized economy, they have militarized the security. And they eliminated somehow, they're fighting at the name of security, at the name of security of the human, and they're killing the human at the name of the security of the human. That is the real reason of conflict between US and China, or you can say The real conflict, which if I look at the conflict, what is the difference of opinion between China and US? That is military-industrial complex versus Communist Party of China. Because military-industrial complex always played through the democratic Western institution. I will support this, I will not support this, I will support this. But CPC finished, I eliminated this threat for the China. And that's what military-industrial complex don't like. That's why they are opposing CPC more than China. So this is a brief, you can say, so what has been done? So these are in numbers. What BRI have achieved during the last 10 years. You can read yourself. But I want to add one more thing here. So, Shamsher, can you a little bit? So, I want to add one more number here. There was a report till 2021. So, total investment from in the BRI. This number only tells us from a Chinese side. It does not tell because in the BRI, there are a number of programs. We have joint programs, like energy program in here, Pakistan, transportation, and other programs. According to the report, till 2021, they have invested in 3,220 projects worth of 3.49 trillion US dollar. So that's mean, so BRI tried to lower the gap of investment. If you look around, McKinsey's report in 2015, that report shows that the countries are facing an investment gap of $5.3 trillion till to the 2030. So BRI contributed to lower that gap. These are the numbers speaks itself. So these were the, you can say, the past. But know what challenges will be BRI facing in the coming days. Weaponization of human rights, we have seen in the case of Xinjiang. So if they are so much concerned about the Muslim lives, why they are silent on the Kashmir where the 8 million people has been put in the jail? Why they are silent over the people are being killed in Gaza? There's nothing about the human rights. There's a weaponization of the human rights. What had been, that will be big, major challenge in coming days for the China in the context of Xinjiang. Weaponization of the democracy. When President Biden, he invited every country to attend the democracy summit. Why did not they invite China? Because the fundamental principle of democracy is harmony and diversity. But they are not. They don't invite China because Chinese model of democracy is different. It does not talk about economic security with the lens of military. It's talk about economic security with the lens of human. So they were not invited there. Then third, conflict encircling China. Like Taiwan, they're trying to create a conflict. Like Ukraine, they have created a conflict. Like South China Sea, bringing the more and more conflict around China. And China broke a deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So you find a new war in the Middle East. Conflict in circulation will also be going on. These are when the President Xi Jinping delivered his speech on the latest CPC meeting, so he was concerned about super containment efforts. He used the word super containment efforts. So world will be doing the super containment efforts around the China. So last challenge from my perspective would be weaponization of right to development. That is happening. If you join the BRI, you are undemocratic, you don't respect the human rights. China is helping them. China is doing the debt trap, implementing debt trap. China is doing the new type of the colonization. Although new type of the colonization was a part of post-World War II institutions. I'm moving quickly because time. So green BRI. So that is the future. Green BRI. But if we want to go for a green BRI and we develop our ambitions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions or climate smart lifestyle or commitment adaptability, we have to create a balance between those ambitions and living needs of the people. If we're implementing those decisions at the cost of the humans, are their livelihoods, you will not be succeeded. Because for any action, you need the support of the society. And you can get the support of the society if you are taking care of their needs. I'm not talking about demands, aspirations. I'm talking about their needs, livelihood needs. If Green BRI would be able to create that balance, that was the same message which President Xi Jinping, I think, delivered at 2018 or 19 on APEC meeting. So create a balance between GHG emission reduction ambitions and living needs of the people. That should be a key area. And look, this is China is doing. From the green, there are the three types of these dots. When there is a red dot, it means that China was following the environmental protection laws of host country. But after 2019, when Green BRI initiative has been launched, look, China is trying to follow and implement international standards and Chinese standards, which are very strict right now, the Chinese standards. Maybe more, you can say, strict than the global standards. Moving that. So to Green BRI and to implement that, we need new type of the institutions. So we need new types of institutions. It's called new type of the think tanks. The think tanks which can think beyond tanks. Right now we are talking about the tanks one way and another way. The think tanks which can think about the human. Not in the disguise of the tanks, we are talking about the humans, but in real term humans. So we need new types of the think tanks. And concrete action which we can do, BRI can help, is the new types of the cities. Why I say so we want to get the green future, we need green cities. Because at this point of the time, if you look at the data, so 78% energy is being consumed in cities. 60% of GHG emissions come from cities. And cities are only 2% of the global mass. That means there is some structural problem in the cities which is impacting. And if you have a new problem like smog, because there's a concentration of activities, smog is emerging a big challenge for every country, whereas the concentration is going on. That's why we need to think about new type of the cities. What is needed to build a city? There are 4 or 5 elements which are very important quickly. So first, connectivity. Second, communication. Third, concentration of services. Services mean education, health, social benefits. So in these cities, these are the definitions, are the points which the UN Habitat follow. So these are the elements which led to the cities to establish a city where the people, why people move to the cities. So these are the 5, 6 elements. BRI have all these elements: connectivity, transportation, infrastructure. In addition to that, China has launched 3-dimensional transportation plan. So where China is bringing out the new ideas of the transportation system in the world, starting from the domestic, expanding it to the globe. So we can have there. Communication means digital. We are living in a digital age. And the concentration of services. Health, we are talking about. Market. Online market, e-commerce is coming big way. So concentration of economic opportunity we can take care. So these are the 6 elements which we can talk about. And BRI have these all elements. That means they can promote a new types of the city, which can be said as like that, hybridly spacious cities. Just spatially hybrid cities. Like don't move to one place, convert different centers and connect them to that modern transportation system, digital economy, and other things. Create the market, digital market, where people can do the business. So new type of cities maybe at this point of time is needed. That way we can also create. Thank you so much. With that, and then on the new type city, last point which I want to say, the current or the existing model of cities was developed on the basis of first industrial revolution, which don't cater for the needs of the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution, we need a new type of the city which can build on the new concepts and a new model is needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shakil Ramesab. You very wisely sum up the BRI alternatives, shielding from exploitation, debt relief, and bringing back the human security. Now I would like to invite Dr. Abid Qayyum Suleri, Executive Director, SDPI, to conclude this thoughtful and insightful session. Sir, please. Sir, you can.
Khalid, first of all, my gratitude to all the speakers who joined from Beijing, from Islamabad, sparing time, and especially Senator Saab, who has been consistently sitting here, and I know he had a lunch commitment right in Nadia.
I got a lot of food for thought.
but he preferred to be here. Thank you very much, Senator Saab, for being here. I think if I summarize in one line, and this has been somehow a consistent summary of all the panels for last 2 days, we need to bring our house in order. So in order to get benefit of any collaboration, in order to get benefit of any cooperation, there is a lot of things that we need to do. 10 years of BRI, one can look at it from different perspective. You can appreciate it. You can find a lot of things that needs to be improved. But certainly one thing that during those 10 years has taken place, that it has reshaped the global landscape of development. And as Mushahid Saab rightly mentioned, that even now the critics of BRI, they are coming up with the copycat alternatives. And again, for a recipient country, it is not the source of funding which is important. It is the preparedness to get benefit from that source which is important. And I very candidly, very frankly, I can say that we are still not there. And when people ask us that CPEC was portrayed as a game changer, so Gwadar Port is there for last many years, and we have all the roads, and we have all the IPPs, and what is its impact on people's life? I remind them that it was after at least 9 years that we came up with the transshipment port policy, 9 years after construction of Gwadar Port.
That's true.
We never had this policy. We never negotiated and finalized the tariff for power generation plant that was to be established in Gwadar, kept on importing electricity from Iran. We were not prepared when we were doing all those negotiations with IPPs, the dollar-denominated rate of return, etc., etc. So there are a lot of things that needs to be improved at our end, and once we are ready, then of course any source of funding is kosher. And if we are not ready, perhaps as I said in my opening remarks, that we can't expect Chinese farmers to come here and grow soya bean, and then we can export it and we can earn things that we need to do ourselves. And this is one of the takeaway that I'm drawing from this worthy panel. Thank you very much for joining us.